question, feel free to enter it into the chat box.
Okay. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenter today. This is Thad Salmos. I'm the Northern California co-chair for the CAPED AT-CIG. And Jayme Johnson, who's presenting today, is the Director of Accessibility and User Experience for the Online Education Initiative here in California. The OEI is a statewide project working to increase the success of students in online education, especially those who've been traditionally underrepresented, such as students with disabilities. Jayme is going to present today an overview and update on the activities of the OEI, and answer questions about ensuring accessibility in online. You'll talk about how you can stay informed on new developments and opportunities to be involved in upcoming projects. So, thank you, Jayme. Please go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Thad, so much, and thank you all for showing up. And I just wanted to thank Carolyn. Thanks for the hold music. We're going to want to mute somebody. Yeah, I don't have control over muting the participants.
Are you hearing violin?
Yes.
Oh, that's my husband.
Well, thank you, Carolyn, for the music and for the scholarship information. Maybe we can mute you.
Yeah. I tried doing mute on my phone, but I'm a presenter, so you're going to have to.
Oh, you click on your name in the chat room, and then you can mute yourself, I believe.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to hang up on the phone, and then I'll just go online, and that
Awesome.
can do it. Okay.
All right. Thanks again. All right. So, yeah, we're a crazy bunch, and we're having a lot of fun figuring out the ins and outs of online technology. Go figure. My name is Jayme Johnson. If you missed that, thank you all again. And I do have a road tour of venues and attractions to talk about. But as always, my main goal is to answer your questions. So please take full advantage of the chat room to enter questions. I'll be counting on Thad and Joe to help back me up and keep track of questions that are being presented there. And I'll go over the main components and let you guys respond. And while we're here to talk about the OEI in general, we're also opening it up to all questions about online education and accessibility. Whatever you might feel you want to spring on me, today's your chance. So we'll jump in without any further introductions or ado. Let's get started with an orientation back in time. There was a time, not so long ago actually, where our system, the California Community College system, was, well, we were facing some dire straits. And we were trying to figure out how to deal with an overabundance of students, a surplus of need, and a lack of capacity in terms of responding. Between 2007-08 and the 2011-12 academic years, the funding for the California Community College system was cut by $1.5 billion. And the course offerings statewide were reduced by about 25% after these 5 years of consecutive deep budget cuts. And the end result was that we had to ration our course offerings and turned away nearly 500,000 students, students who needed education to get on with their life. And contrast that with today, they found other places to get education and to get training. And somebody hijacked the screen there. So here we go. Today we're facing more empty seats, and the needs have changed slightly. Now, back originally when we were facing the budget, we were dealing with some of these same issues and looking at MOOCs and other new ideas on how to deal with capacity. As the capacity issue kind of turned around rapidly, the next thing that we had to worry about was the quality issue. So we recognize there is a swinging pendulum dynamic here with the student population, and we will get them back. Maybe not the same ones, but maybe we will. And we want to be prepared for that, and we're working on that still, that component. But the bigger aspect of the OEI is really kind of centered around the bigger topic of quality and support for students in general. This idea of a course consortium that would allow students to take classes from other colleges, that is still alive and well, but it is one of the more difficult and challenging aspects of the OEI, and it is currently slated to be going live in another year. And we're working on all of the logistics and hopefully the automation of the technology so that it won't be a huge ordeal for the people who work at the colleges to coordinate the students and take care of all the business. This slide right here tells you the biggest problem. For a 2-year college, it's kind of amazing that it takes 7 years on average for a student to graduate from our system and 4 years to transfer. This is just ridiculous. We have to change this. So the issue here is about support and about actually doing online education the way it needs to be done. And I'm going to switch away from distance education to the online education verbiage, because we're facing the fact that online instructional technology is good for face-to-face instruction as well. And
hey, sorry to interrupt, but we're having a problem seeing the slides.
Oh, really? Do you see anything at all?
Yeah, we see the opening slide, but not the slide you're referring to now.
Oh boy. Okay, so that's not good. Let me see if I can fix that. Did you get the little background slide?
We
Nothing?
just have the title slide.
Title slide still. Okay. I'm going to try and toggle it out of its current state, and I'm going to switch from application back to screen sharing. Do you see it now?
I see the title slide, but no advancement of the slides.
Oh, that's not good. Oh, how about this?
There we go.
Yay! All right. So I'm so sorry, folks. Yeah, this is. I'll get you caught up on the visuals here. Then there was a mysterious red flashing button on my slide arrows, and turns out I had managed to freeze things somehow. So operator error, I believe. But this is the background. Where we came from, and then the picture of classrooms then and now, illustrating the fact that we've got a problem with getting students now, not a problem with serving the students. And then here's where I was when I realized you guys weren't seeing what I was talking about. So the big point here ultimately, as I was saying, is to get the support for the students and to hopefully radically change our system, not just for distance education, but for education in general. We want to step up the quality and increase the ability of our students to get what they came here for. And I'm very sensitive to the fact that each year of delay that we add to these students' experience, that's a year of their life we're stealing away from them, that they could be doing other great things and improving our world, as it were. So I think it's a good idea, and I'm really happy to report that we've been funded to back up these great intentions. And what we're doing with all of this is moving forward as quickly as we can to change the scene and to provide the support for everybody so that the student reaps the benefits, but to give the faculty the support they need, and to give the classified staff the support they need, and the administration the tools they need to understand and better manage the whole situation. So we're centering around technology resources, what we've been calling a digital ecosystem, to kind of illustrate the pervasive nature of the technology and how it touches everything. Using our statewide size and maximizing these economies of scale that are available to us it just makes sense. And we're doing our best in that regard. We've already centered on a common course management system, and we're working with the manufacturers of our student information systems to get those connections between admissions and records and the course management system, and to enable the data transfer and the tracking that will allow the robots to do a lot of that drudge work for us and allow us to reap the promised benefits of computerized education and technology that responds to your needs. And it's like the ultimate evolution of adaptive technology, and taking it beyond just accessing information, but add some instructional capabilities there so that it can help you learn better, not just get to the learning materials better. And that's for everybody, right? Students with disabilities are definitely in the forefront of this. One of the primary charges of the Online Education Initiative is to increase the success of students who have traditionally been underrepresented. And if you're not aware, students with disabilities traditionally have had somewhere around a 10% lower completion rate and success rate with online education. So definitely one of the target groups, and I'm happy to report that accessibility has been one of the main driving forces. In fact, Joe Moreau, the Vice Chancellor of Technology here at Foothill De Anza, who is the sponsor of the grant, went out of his way to work with the High Tech Center Training Unit and bring me on board as the first official hire, kind of as a symbolic gesture to the importance of accessibility. And there have been several instances where we've faced a technology or a project that was not accessible, and we've had to rearrange the timeline and hold back because we can't let things go live until they are accessible. And there have been some surprises in that vein as well. But again, I'm happy to report the commitment is huge, and everybody is very sensitive and aware of the need to make that technology accessible. Beyond the nuts and bolts of accessible instructional technology, we have the issue of system-wide resources. And that includes the SSSP and the Common Assessment Initiative and the Student Services Portal. There's a lot of activity and effort being put forth to kind of get our system up to snuff with modern times and provide the resources that we all need and wish that we had, and our students especially, in terms of taking care of business and getting the instruction done. So related to all of that is the issue of content. And we can build technology and we can provide resources, but we all know the big issue here is how do we help our faculty get the accessible content that is necessary for all of this to work. And to that end, we are doing a lot of exciting work. We've been working with @ONE, who provides system-wide professional development services. And we've developed a course review effort, and they're hiring instructional designers and accessibility specialists who can work directly with faculty at the colleges who are participating in the OEI and provide that instructional design support. And one of the main things that we're working on is to integrate accessibility into that instructional design component, so there doesn't have to be some kind of a separation between accessibility specialist and instructional designer. The point being, instructional designers should know about accessibility. And this is a great opportunity for you accessibility specialists who might be wanting to learn more about instructional design. We need your help, and we're going to be providing more opportunities to cross-pollinate and commingle the talents of accessibility specialists and subject matter experts with our instructional designers. And going forward over the next year and a half especially, I expect to see some interesting projects coming forth surrounding specific disciplines, as well as the issue of just providing baseline support across our system and identifying the low-hanging fruit and the easy targets that we can all do at our campuses locally. So the way we can tell that all of this will be successful is we will find completion rates that will go up, hopefully, and we'll be able to tell by the number of students who are getting through the system successfully that it's all been working. Now, freeing resources is one of the big benefits of all of this. When the state of California negotiates a price scheme for an online tutoring platform, for example, you as local campuses, we are expecting you can reap the benefits of that and redivert the money you might have been spending on that service already towards your own support of faculty and your own accessibility efforts. And that's going to be an exciting change when you consider all the money that is being spent by our colleges on course management systems and all the other sorts of technology that go to provide that experience. I think there's some exciting potential for what we can do with those savings. So right now, currently, we've got 3 pilots going, and there's additional pilots in the works, and they'll be coming soon to campuses near you. What we've got currently is an organization of 3 groups of 8 individual colleges, and we're collectively, the pilots, we've got 24 colleges participating, and we'll be bringing more on as we move forward. The full launch pilot is the big pilot with the course management system, which is Canvas if you haven't heard. And I'm happy to report that we were able to negotiate a price structure that will basically enable us to provide it for free for the first 4 years. Because the grant is a 5-year cyclical kind of situation, we have to negotiate in corresponding chunks. And while we can't promise anything beyond 2019, the expectation is that we will continue to be able to fund it. The worst case scenario would be there might be some kind of a small percentage that would have to be kicked in if the financial situation doesn't work out as well as we would hope. But that is the technology base that will facilitate the course exchange. And this is an important dynamic because accessibility in the online venue doesn't just happen in one area. It takes a concerted effort of your campus, your IT folks, your instructional office, and your DSPS folks. Everybody has to kind of work together for this accessibility to happen. It's not enough to have accessible content if you put it in an inaccessible course management system, right? So connecting those dots and providing that set of resources that will enable faculty to control their environment and effectively deliver accessible content is the big challenge for the full launch. But the promise here is that once we're done, we will have courses that are accessible and will enable your students with disabilities to get the courses they need to complete. And the hope here is that the OEI will provide a completely accessible experience. Having thrown down that gauntlet, we recognize there will inevitably be somebody who will challenge our concepts of accessibility and require some kind of an accommodation. So we are also working on an online accommodation model to support the full launch pilots and kind of coordinate the DSPS services for the greater good and figure out how we can most effectively support a student with a disability when everything goes wrong and we've got to jump in with that accommodation. So that's the big exciting pilot that is in the forefront of a lot of people's mind. Related to that, but not quite as intense perhaps, is the tutoring pilot. And this is another happy situation where we were able to negotiate system-wide discounts for this program, this online tutoring program. And need to be careful and make sure everybody understands that that is not a blessing of accessibility at this point. The company LSI, Link Systems, they provide NetTutor. Is the branded product. They have entered into a development contract with us, and we are working to create an accessible whiteboard experience that will be the basis, the foundation of the tutoring environment, and make it completely accessible, supporting MathML and HTML5 full interactive communication. So that is still being developed for the program. They are continuing to offer existing technology and services, and there are some accessibility gaps in that existing kind of beta pilot situation. So just be careful if LSI comes to your campus and starts trying to negotiate a deal. Make sure you talk to them about accessibility and that you specify you want the good accessible worldwide whiteboard, right? And hopefully that will be coming very soon, but development is ongoing. Now readiness is the third pilot that we're working on, and it's not an orientation to online learning, because that verbiage, orientation specifically, it means something very specific in our system, and it's got its own legal requirements. So it's really preparation and kind of a technology check for online learning to give students a reality check, if you will, about what's involved with online learning, and give them a chance to make sure they've got the right browser and the right technology stack, and they understand there will be homework and the ebb and flow of online education. Currently, we're working on an HTML5 accessible version that should be ready by fall of this year is what we're hoping. At the moment, we've got a text version and an MP3 bank of the material, as well as a less accessible video that does have captioning, but it's got some control elements. But between all of the offerings, there should be the critical information should be available to students currently, but we're definitely working hard to improve that and have a good model of a single solution that is accessible for everybody, rather than having to provide discrete alternate media formats. And it's been a bit of a growing experience for a lot of people. The developers and the vendors who are working with us, they've come a long way, and they've got a ways to go in some regards, but I'm really pleased by the attitude and the desire here to not just meet accessible requirements, but to really create something useful, and something that at the end of the day will be something that allows students with disabilities to enjoy the same services independently with the same time frame and the same equivalent ease of use, and that's when we'll win. That's when we'll see the numbers of students with disabilities meeting, if not exceeding, those of students without disabilities. And here's the list of the current colleges who are presenting or are participating in the pilots. So the readiness colleges, the tutoring colleges, and the full launch colleges. And we've got one college that is participating in both the Common Assessment Initiative and the Education Planning Initiative, as well as the full launch, and that's Fresno City College, doing some great work there. And if you have questions about the rest of the initiatives and the bigger situation that is being developed, Fresno might be a great place to look and to talk to the people that work there to get their perspective. Now, specifically about accessibility within the online education initiative, I'm trying to approach it in a multifaceted way. There's a lot of things to address. Part of the mission is not to have an accessibility gatekeeper or fix-it person, but rather to instill the understanding and the skill set throughout the entire organization. So especially, you can understand, I would really want it to be a situation where they don't say, let's get Jayme to fix the accessibility. I want everybody to know how to do their own accessibility work, right? And we all understand the benefits of that. When the entire organization walks the talk, everybody wins. And we can not only have an accessible educational experience, but we can start to spread the benefits of accessibility further and teach our students about accessibility and how to create accessible information themselves. So That's huge, and that's where the executive management team comes in. We've got a director of academic affairs and a director of student services and a director of strategic planning and oversight, a director of professional development, and a director of basic skills, and they are all committed to the cause. In fact, I've probably talked their ears off more than I should have. They're a little bit flinchy, but they're really coming around to the point where they just think about it and it's not a second guess anymore. So that's happiness. Now the technology infrastructure, again, is a major part of this. We can't have it work if the technology has gaps. And to that effect, I need to give a little bit of acknowledgement to the Butte Technology Center. They have really taken the charge of accessibility to heart, and they are one of our strongest assets in terms of maintaining accessibility with the technology. And they're requiring the content that comes onto that technology to also be accessible. And they're using the WCAG 2.0 level AA standards. And that is pretty much the line in the sand that your content needs to meet if it's going to go live. And that is going to be huge as just the basic prerequisite to getting out there. A lot of the problems will be taken care of. Now, because it's not 100% effective, just to point at the WCAG standards, we've got our own course design standards, and we've taken the best of existing course standards that we could find, and we've consulted our faculty, and they've created something truly unique and specific to the community college system in California. And it does include accessibility. And it also it references this implication of the technology base and the content needing to work together. And I think that is going to be one of the best assets towards our ability of providing accessible content. And through this course design process, we're identifying those sticky wickets that are just going to be inherently inaccessible to certain populations. And we're going to tackle that problem of what is the best way to represent this information. And maybe somebody who's blind might benefit from an entirely different construct. Maybe we don't need to use that table at all. Maybe there's a better way to explain this and to instruct our students. And at the end of it, what we're hoping to have is a nice collection of content that can be used throughout the system for some of our more challenging disciplines that have traditionally really struggled in that online context. Think STEM, all of your science, technology, and engineering and math courses, and there's a lot of other ones, of course. But we've got 17 of the most popular associate degree transfer courses identified, and we're starting there, figuring those have the greatest chance of somebody encountering them as they're the most popular and in demand. Related to that effort is the instructional design support. So the @ONE group has just been phenomenal, and they're really building an impressive team of experts, and we're working within the Canvas course management system to provide the support for faculty and to provide the support for the rest of the system, so that even if you're not in one of the pilots, you can still take advantage of the design standards and the recommendations. And we're trying to make it possible for the rest of the system to basically pick and choose what they think works for them, and not in any way be heavy-handed and say, thou shalt or thou must do this. Only within the context of a course exchange would we be interested in maintaining that level of control, because its focus is so stringent and tightly defined around this concept of interoperable and interaccessibility. So you have to keep that in mind when we talk about the OEI. Part of our mission is to provide resources for the entire system. And then we have some more limited, more focused pilot activities where we're controlling the environment much more strictly because we're gathering data and trying to figure out what is really affecting the situation. So through all of that, we will come up with, hopefully, the best professional development that we can with @ONE and working with other players in our system like the High Tech Center Training Unit and the DECT grant and 3C Media. We're going to boost up all of the supports for the system is the hopeful outcome. And that will be something that will be beneficial for all of our students, and hopefully it will be something that adds a better situation for all of you in your individual jobs. And that is why we need you to be involved. We have to find out what you want and what you need. So we're looking for your input. And we've got a robust governance system, official chains of communication. But as you may be aware, shared or participatory governance is not always as effective or as engaging as we might like it to be. So you might have missed the word, as it were. But there is a statewide academic senate representation on the OEI, and you have a forum to get information about the project through that venue. Find out who your local academic senate people are and ask them, what's going on? And if you have a distance education coordinator that you can track down, have a conversation with them and see what's going on and find out if there's any interest in being involved or if they know anything at all about it. And start that conversation, and then we can see what comes from that. Now in terms of the participation, after you figure out where all the fun stuff's happening, how do you get involved? One of the first needs that we've got is for course reviewers and subject matter experts, accessibility specialists. Contact @ONE, email Micah Orloff, he's the director of @ONE, and tell him, I've got such and such experience and I want to help with the OEI course review process for accessibility. And we're looking at the process of course review as well as the process of creating training and online resources for faculty and staff to help them support the students and the bigger process. So the OEI Steering Committee is the formal venue through which the system can get representation and provide input to what's going on. And that again would be where your academic senate can be your mouthpiece and hopefully a good conduit. But those are public meetings, and I encourage you to visit our website and learn more about it if you are interested. Related to that is this accessibility work group I've got referenced here, and that is a specialized collection of individuals who are very interested in accessibility. And I need to give some credit and brag about your colleagues because what I found throughout this process is that there are a lot of faculty and staff who support accessibility. And when we have our meetings and when we're working on these projects, I'm not the only voice of accessibility. Your colleagues have been listening to you. You guys have done a good job of raising awareness and raising concern. And this accessibility work group is a place where those individuals are coalescing, and we're going to be looking at some specialized projects and taking on some challenges. One of them is usability testing for all the technology and content that we're providing. So if you want to be part of that, we'd love to have you. And likewise, if you've got students who are using assistive technology who might be interested, please put them in touch with us. We're trying to get students to participate, and oftentimes we can buy them lunch and maybe pay to send them to a conference or something as part of that usability testing process. So it might be fun and exciting. It might be something to break up the monotony. You never know. But we would appreciate hearing from you guys and telling us what it is that we can do for you, what's working, and what we could do better. So at the end of it all, what we're hoping we're hoping to build something special by taking advantage of the expertise and the amazing work that has been done in our system. As the largest post-secondary educational institution in the world, we've got some interesting bragging rights. But this online education piece is really huge, and it's been under-supported and underfunded for so many years. It's really amazing what we've been able to accomplish. Unfortunately, accessibility hasn't always been as good as we need it to be. So the OEI is a really exciting thing for myself, because the accessibility is one of the primary challenges of the OEI. This is our opportunity where they didn't just say make it accessible, they're giving us some money to make it happen the way it should too. So I think it's important that all of you share your histories, your experiences, and your dreams about what we could do to make it work better. And we have some pioneers in the crowd here who have gone and found independent solutions for your colleges. We need to share that good work so that other colleges can take advantage of the hard work that you've done. So thank you guys for showing up and for your patience and for listening. Well, you didn't have any choice. You were all muted, so you couldn't really interrupt with questions. But I will forward to the slide with my contact information now. And it's also got some great information in terms of keeping informed. The website for the online education initiative is ccconlineed.org, CONLINEED.org. And that is the official repository of everything from the original grant to all of the press announcements and everything that's happened. There's also a remarkable history in the TechEdge newsletter. There have been about our projects and our progress, but perhaps a place to get an update would be Pat Jayme's blog at TechEdge. Pat Jayme is our executive, meaning and the relevance of the online education initiative as we head out into this place where nobody has gone before, and pretty much the only signs available are the signs that we brought with us, and we're trying to figure it out, and that's where you guys come in, because we're counting on you to let us know where are you at, what do you need, and how can we connect the dots. And remember, the most beautiful part of this is the ultimate point is to give our students what they need to get through our system, and to change that stat so that it doesn't take 4 years to transfer or 7 years to get your degree. This could be a huge opportunity to change that. So now I will forward to the questions, and I see a question from Sharon about the scholarship application. You can, well, actually I don't know the answer where that is anymore. I believe it's from the CAPED website, at least it used to be. Carolyn, do you want to type that into the chat? CAPED Go, then click on scholarships. There you go. All right, so I'm scrolling up through the chat to see if there were any other questions. Maybe we could unmute everybody and allow vocal participation.
Rupa asked a question, Jayme, about whether Canvas was free to all the California community colleges or just free for the colleges participating in the OEI pilot.
Great question. So the deal here is it's free for everybody, but we have to control the admittance to the party. The Butte Technology Center will be working with the campuses to migrate their courses over, and that is not a trivial process. So we're staging some cohorts of people, or colleges rather, and trying to coordinate the chaos. So if you want to know more about that, if your college has not begun the process of communicating with the OEI, or you just don't know anything about that, you need to contact the Technology Center up at Butte. Line is the gentleman, and his contact information is on our website, and send me an email. I can do an introduction if you need. But my understanding is we're going to have groups of colleges and give them about a year, maybe a year and a half to migrate everything over and have some overlap so that together there will be instructional design support as well as technical support to manage that entire process. And until further notice, it is free for everybody. The only catch is it's not as easy to get as just going to a link and downloading it. You have to sign up and go through the process. Hopefully that helps.
Great. Larry at LA Mission College asked, are you aware of surveys that have been used by colleges to gather information related to users' experience with website accessibility?
Well, that's a great question. In the most general sense, I have seen some things along those lines. In regards to our system specifically, there has not been an exhaustive survey done. Actually working on something along those lines right now. And you know, the problem we have is survey fatigue. We've been doing a lot of surveys whenever possible. LeBaron Woodyard from the Chancellor's Office manages the distance ed coordinators, and he does a pretty thorough survey trying to get at the data. But it's a bit of a challenge to get good information, and the timeline of completing the survey is always a problem. So I expect we will be engaging in a prolonged effort. And one of the things that I would like to be able to do is to have a history of what you guys have been interested in or looking for or expressing. So maybe this is something we could do within the CAPED AT-SIG, is start a repository or a communication place on the website where we can warehouse some of those questions and some of those needs. But we will be looking at it in a bigger effort as we go forward. Right now we've been doing fragmented examinations within the context of specific pilot projects and efforts. But I think it would be very useful to do kind of a benchmarking survey of the system as a whole and then be able to track our progress as we move forward. So there's another opportunity for you all to be involved. If you have great questions or experience with such surveys, send me an email. And yeah, I'll teach you to be careful what you ask for. Any other questions?
All right. Last call for questions.
We could unmute the participants now too.
Yeah, I'm seeking to do that.
All guests have been unmuted.
Good.
Okay.
Freedom.
It's been done. Jayme, I had a question about Canvas as well. So I've spoken with our DE coordinator, and he expressed some trepidation about that transition. And it just prompted me to think, what are some of the things that, for those of us not familiar with Canvas, that we could look out for in terms of accessibility and training our faculty to give them that head start, if there is anything different than, say, what our faculty are already used to, like with Blackboard or eTudes or what have you. What specific accessibility challenges are there that present themselves with Canvas as opposed to other course management systems?
Well, that's a great question. You know, I wish I could say there's nothing in the world challenging about Canvas accessibility, but there will be some things that will be a little more challenging for screen reader users. The way I've kind of wrapped my head around it is there seems to be some design issues where the user experience could be better for a screen reader user. Not to say that it's impossible or inaccessible, it's just a situation where sometimes the engineering could have structured the content a little bit differently. For instance, a menu of options, and beneath the menu of options is the button where you might be able to change what is being displayed. You know, that button would make a lot more sense up at the top, where you could then see the resulting changes after you clicked it a lot easier, as opposed to having to navigate back up the document and review the table for changes after you clicked on the button. You know, again, it's not an accessibility problem. in terms of a black hole, but it is one of those user experience issues where an individual might make a change and not realize immediately that the change happened. So those are the kinds of user experience issues that are generally being addressed through the accessibility group. The biggest challenge in terms of migrating from a Blackboard or Etudes or any other Moodle or course management system, it generally tends to be in the structure of the modules. So you'll have a book structure in Moodle, for instance, where you can create pages and have them all be associated as a cohesive unit. And the tools within Canvas to do that, they function a little bit differently. So you might be used to just creating a raw web page and being able to control a lot more thoroughly what you do with your raw HTML, where Canvas is going to they're going to kind of control the experience a little bit differently. It's not, again, it's not a case where something is not going to be accessible so much as it might need to be reconfigured. And typically you'll find situations like that in assignments where there's a specific type of an assignment that might have existed in Blackboard, but there is not the same comparable assignment within Canvas. So you got to find the comparable assignment type of activity and transport that content over. And quizzes and the types of questions that you can ask within a quiz would be another example. And the basic advice, some of that there's nothing you can do except grit your teeth and wait to see what you find. But in general terms, for designing accessible experiences, shy away from anything that is heavily mouse dependent is one of the best common sense pieces of advice to give your faculty without overwhelming them with geek speak and scaring them with accessibility stuff. Just tell them, if you have to use the mouse and you can't complete it with a keyboard at all, that's probably a big problem. And kind of start looking at their content through that lens, and they can identify some of the more challenging things in terms of accessibility. But what I found primarily is that most of the people who get into Canvas seem to be able to find what they need and get where they're going. Any challenges they have aren't necessarily about inaccessible infrastructure. It's more about a content layout or a user experience dynamic where screen reader users could be improved. That helps?
Yeah, Thad here from Sierra College. Jayme, how many colleges are currently using Canvas, community colleges in California?
Oh, there's only a handful currently. We've got the 8 colleges in the full launch pilot, but there were a couple of colleges who had signed on with Canvas before we got going. And Sierra College actually is the college that can claim to have signed on first, although I believe Pasadena College might be the college who implemented first. But I believe there's somewhere between 3 to 5 campuses currently using Canvas.
The point of my question is, it might be valuable for the colleges who've been using Canvas for a bit to help communicate what our transition process was like. It is my understanding here, and I'm kind of on the periphery because I'm not currently teaching classes, but my students do use Canvas, and we've been very pleased with its ease of use for sighted and students with vision impairments. And from what I understand, the transition for our faculty was relatively smooth and painless.
That's great to hear reinforced, because we actually did interview your faculty and your DE coordinator before we came on. We did some site visits, and that was what I remember hearing as well. And that is the general situation I tend to hear from most people. When I talk to our accessibility peeps, the hardcore assistive technologists and some of our more outspoken advocate people, they can identify some things in the nooks and crannies, and they've got long lists of enhancements. But so far, I haven't heard anything in the way of a black hole. And here's the best news on that. In terms of Canvas and the accessibility, I was able to get accessibility requirements into the contract, specifying a pretty high bar, and they've got a 3-week development cycle that we've gotten our hooks into. So if any of our students find an accessibility problem that requires an accommodation, it automatically gets elevated to the highest priority to be addressed within the next 3-week development cycle. So they're not only selling us a bill of goods, as it were, they're selling us a promise to make anything right if there are any problems discovered. So that indicates a good partner, I feel. And I've got a good feeling that whatever we might find, whatever kind of explosions we might encounter, we've got the best team possible to help put it back together. So that's really reassuring.
We have a question from Larry at Los Angeles Mission College, who asks if you know whether Canvas has a VPAT, a voluntary, it's a voluntary product accessibility template.
That is correct.
Okay.
And yes, they do. I believe, I'm not sure off the top of my head, I don't want to give the wrong address, but I believe if you go to instructure.com/accessibility, that might be where it's at. You can Google it and find it pretty well. They do have a VPAT, and I went through that and asked them the hard questions. There's 2 places on that VPAT where they specify they either meet the criteria with some exceptions or they say it's not applicable. And they were both valid. The VPAT in some places requires the ability to change time by the user, if there is a limited amount of time to complete a task. And because of the nature of testing, we don't give the student the ability to change that time. It must be done by a DSPS director or a faculty person. That ability does exist, but according to the technical reading of the VPAT, that was an exception because the student as the end user does not have that control in that specific context. And the other exception was a similar kind of technicality where the VPAT requirement was not appropriate for the business needs of the instructional technology at that point. It wasn't a case of the technology wasn't accessible, it was just the method of administration deemed it inappropriate for privacy or some other legal issue.
Jayme, this is Joseph from Taft College. I had a question about interactive transcripts. I was wondering if interactive transcripts are possible within Canvas, and if so, if you're planning on implementing that as one of those fancy tools to aid accessibility for the courses in the course exchange.
Yeah, wouldn't that be awesome? It's entirely possible. Right now we're still working on the fundamental aspects of connecting the caption grant, the DECT grant, and the captioning services that are required. We want to connect those dots first for the video, and then once we've got the essential components working to our satisfaction, then it's about improving the situation. And in some cases, an interactive transcript might happen sooner than later in a certain context of a given pilot project or a certain technology. So I want to say that it exists as a possibility, not so far away, but that's a different question from when will it be available throughout the entire system as part of Canvas. And that is one of those things where you guys can help shape that future by being involved, letting your desires be known, and participating in the accessibility work group. Because if we do a survey of our faculty and our students and we find out that that is like one of the top 3 things that they want, that really increases the chances of it happening sooner than later. And that's the way this project works. It's really a democratic effort to provide the local colleges the resources they need. And that's the cool thing is your local colleges own the curriculum and they're still in charge. They've got an a la carte menu of what they want to pick and choose from. So I'm coming to you saying, hey, let's build a menu. let's kind of do some forecasting of what we want on that menu and make sure that we're working towards that end. And I think as a pedagogical tool, an interactive transcript is undeniably valuable. I think there's opportunities to cross-pollinate here with the basic skills part of the OEI, and perhaps to address some of those issues that our students will be facing, as they place into the remedial English courses and they get those kinds of services. That's a great place for us to come in and say, hey, look what an interactive transcript can do to improve cognition and increase the ease of studying and so on and so forth. So great question, and I'm making a note of it. That's the best I can do for you now, though.
Okay. Any further questions from all of our attendees? Yes, no? So I'd like to thank you, Jayme, for the presentation. I'd also like to mention that this session has been captioned and archived, and we'll be sending out the link for those people who could not attend or those people who'd like to review or pass the archived content on. So before we go, I would like to mention that we have a couple upcoming webinars. Our August webinar, which will probably be in the middle of the month, will feature a presentation from Rhea Thompson of Learning Ally, and Mary Alexander, her colleague, will talk about the College Success Program, and we'll be advertising that and promoting that in our usual way. So, absent further questions, I'd like to thank everyone again for attending, and this concludes our CAPED AT-SIG live webinar. Thanks again, Jayme.
Thank you all so much. All right, so